lunch and dinner and banquet. Tonight we're here to honor 4 outstanding new inductees into the Hall of Fame. 3 players and 1 contributor.
Here. It's amazing. I've known Dan a long time. Let's start with the beginning here. In 1976, Dan began his pickleball career in a junior high school pickleball class. A pickleball class in 1976. Wow. He continued to play in junior high school, and the rec centers throughout the Seattle, Washington area. But in 1985, his career took off. He began playing in the Sid Williams Tournaments. Now, Sid conducted tournaments every month, from 1985 to 1999. A lot of years. Now, I met Dan in 1992, and it was very unique for me, because it was my first tournament, first Sid Williams tournament. And I was kind of nervous. And the other thing about it was I played with a woman in men's doubles. Well, at that time, women could play men's events. And some of the women were pretty damn good. So I played with a good one. And Mary and I worked our way to the medal round, the gold medal round. Mary Sigmund, yes. And who did we play? None other than Dan Gabanek and another pickleball legend, Pat Kane. Well, we took second place. Let's put it that way. Okay, I spoke with several players about Dan's qualities as a pickleball player. And here's what they said. I'll read it. His dominance in a strong Northwest field for 40 years. His playful spirit. His sportsmanlike demeanor. His fierce competitiveness. His amazing wingspan and height that creates a wall that is hard to penetrate. His brilliant net play, the dink game that he and so many other top-level Northwest players perfected long before the national championships were a dream. Okay, last, he's actually quite shy, except when fighting for the last hot dog in a Sid Williams tournament. Okay, here are some of his records. 12 hot dogs in one day in a SeaTac tournament. Oh, but really, these are very impressive here. In 1988 through 1992, he was the #1 player in singles. 1989 through 1998, he was the #1 player in doubles. This was according to Sid Williams' monthly report rankings. Now, last year, I asked Dan, hey, Dan, when was the first time we ever played together? And we were in his garage, and he went into his cupboard in the garage and pulled out this spiral notebook. And in this spiral notebook, he had a log of all his tournaments. A logbook. And in the logbook, it had the venue, dates, partners, medals won. Isn't that amazing? How many people do that here? All I do is throw my medal in a box. That's about it. Dan has logged over... I missed it. Okay, Dan has logged over 250 medals, and among them, 7 national championship medals. How do I know that? Well, a few weeks ago, I asked Dan for a tally. Here it is. It shows gold, silver, and medals, and bronze medals. But there's one significant thing it shows in here, all the way down on the bottom. It shows Dan and I played and medaled in 40 tournaments. 40 tournaments. Wow, I didn't even know it. Knocked my socks off. Okay, I have a couple stories now. Dan and I played in a tournament in Lakewood, Washington. And we reached the gold medal round. And who were we to play? We played Levon and Frank Major. Now, many of you don't know who they are. They were brothers, and they were very fierce competition. They were always tough for us. But before the medal match began, they started arguing with each other. Well, what are they arguing about? They're arguing about the prize, the first prize. First prize was 2 very nice hooded sweatshirts. So Levon says to Frank, "I'll take the black one." And Frank says to Levon, "No, you take the gray one, I'll take the black one." And Dan and I we're just looking at each other. What the heck is going on here? We haven't even started the match. Well, it turned out we beat them in 3. Okay, we beat them in 3, and we got the gold, and we got the hoodies. Now, Dan, I don't know, which one did you take, the gray or black? I have no idea either. I have no idea what happened to them. Anyway, the brothers, well, they took the silver medal. But that's it. There was no prize for second place. So it was really nice. Okay, Dan has a pickleball court in his backyard. He always has parties through May through September. And he includes players of all ages and abilities. And I've been there many times. And the best of the best have come there. Most of the Hall of Famers have been there. You know, like Arlen Paranto, Steve Paranto, Enrique Ruiz, Jennifer Lucore, Fran Meyer, Earl Hill. Did I leave somebody out? Billy Jacobson and Sid Williams. They were all there. And there are special players there, like Tim, the Puppet Master, Nelson. And Ernie, the Ernie Perry. Also, Don Gumby Pascal. I don't think many of you know who he is. And there was another one, Wild Man Chris Miller. Okay, I'll talk about Chris later. But Dan has 2 sayings. The first saying, he always mentioned, "Come on over, and I'll give you what's coming to you." He always told me that. He would always try to tag me with the ball. And when he did, he'd yell, "Chicken skin!" What? Do I look like a chicken? Well, I think Ernie Perry started that, but we all have fun with it now. But when he misses me, then I say, "No," or We have fun with that. We always have. Okay. There's another statement, another saying that Dan has, and he loves this one. Don't molest the vegetables. Right, Dan? See, Dan's court is surrounded on 3 sides by a wooden fence. Now, along the fence, he plants vegetables. I think kohlrabi on one side, or maybe all 3. And then on the open side of the court, he plants tomatoes, carrots, and other things for the visitors to pick. It's pretty nice of him. Well, one day, Chris Miller, he's trying to get the ball, and he goes right through the vegetables, and then bam, he goes right through the fence. He took out 3 planks. And he slowly walks back, and here's Dan, don't molest the vegetables. So I thought that was pretty good. Okay, one last thing. Today is Dan's birthday. Yes.
Hey, Mark, let's sing them happy birthday.
No. Okay, Dan, it's your turn. Welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Before I start, I've been sick the last few weeks, so if I start coughing, I'm going to duck down for a little while. Oh, okay. I'd like to thank the Pickleball Hall of Fame, President Rifkin, the Hall of Fame Committee, Fran Meyer for her help, the USAPA, Wes Gabrielson for nominating me, and Mark Friedenberg for introducing me. It's something I hope I never have to do for somebody else, because I'm not a talker and I don't want to be up here. Jennifer, where are you? Oh, good morning. I remember one time where our paths crossed on the pickleball court. You and Chris Miller took us, Heidi and I, out, but we made you work for it in the second game. Watching you and Alex Hamner playing together was always a pleasure to watch, and always to the women's final, and usually the gold medal. Good job. What I will never forget is that you did something you didn't have to. You went out of your way and at your expense to mail me an autographed copy of your book that you and your mom wrote, and the book was as addictive as pickleball. I couldn't put it down till after midnight. Well written. Enrique. We played together a few times, won a couple of matches. It was always a pleasure to play with you and an adventure playing against you. While one of my mottos has always been do it to them before they do it to you, when you were on the other side of the net, I always felt you were going to do it to me first. Well done. Steve, I'll get to you later. When I started playing 43 years ago, had someone told me that one day there would be a national tournament, I would have said, okay. If someone had told me 43 years ago that there would be a pickleball museum, I would have said with much sarcasm, sure there will. If someone 43 years ago had told me that one day there would be a Pickleball Hall of Fame, I would have said, give it a rest already, will ya? I'm amazed at how fast the sport has grown, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. From the speed of the game with livelier balls and quicker paddles to the depth of the field and the level of the play. And the quickness of the players. When I started playing tournaments, Earl Burt was the fastest person I could think of. It took about 10, 15 years, and then Glenn Griffin came along, and I thought there's nobody faster than him. And well, then there was a young kid that came out of Florida by the name of Carl Yates, and I wish I had his legs. I've played too many years to thank everybody, so I'm going to just concentrate on the early years. I'd like to thank my 5'7" dad, John, and my 5'4" mom, Maria, for giving me this wingspan. I couldn't have done it without him. The teachers who introduced me to the game and even opened up the gym 2 hours before the start of school, Terry Gerard and Reg Waddips. For playing a lot of singles with me over the years, Dan Quinn, Jerry Willett, Jeff Thompson, Tim McCarthy. The 4 groups of people I played doubles with as I moved around. Jack and Pam Hefner, Bill and Bev Lathrop, Doug Dixon, Doug Tollefson, Yim Lee, Ron Utley, Rick and Michelle Young, Marty Newman and Lars. And then Blaze Bresco, Tom Mackey, Tim McCarthy, Mary Sigmund, Adam Benson, Dave Ketter, who I consider my mentor on the doubles court, Ron Mills, Herb Wilkie, Patty Moffitt, Rich Hamlin, and the 4th group, Lionel Rainman, Ann Rice, Rob Solopek, Guy Law, Ed, Gale, and Yoda. From Tim McCarthy's line of "That's what she said," to Bev Lathrop, who after I moved out of my parents' home, every time I went to pickleball, for 15 years she made homemade chocolate chip cookies. All these people instilled in me different levels of strategy, competitiveness, respect, fairness, like calling lines, having fun, and most importantly, a sense of belonging and togetherness. They made me who I am today. And I've noticed this togetherness everywhere I've gone. Steve Paranto. One day after I don't know how many years I was playing in tournaments, me being a loner, you came up to me and you showed me a Pro Light paddle, and you said I should try one of these. I was one of the last ones to be using the old wooden paddles. From that opening gesture, I've been at Steve's dad's home for pickleball on a few occasions. They've been at my place for pickleball, and Steve's taken me in during the Oregon State Games for close to 10 years. If you've never stayed at Steve's place, he used to take in about a dozen people, and his home is an entertainment center. Pool table, ping pong table, foosball, shuffleboard, pickleball court, hot tub, on and on. And if that's not enough, on a couple occasions he's treated us to something extra. A magic show, ventriloquist act, and my favorite, Baby Randy skit with Randy Bither. Steve for going above and beyond by bringing a group of people closer together through fun and laughter. Thank you. Wherever I've stayed, my hosts have gone above and beyond. The Wallens of Utah, Jack and Bonnie, who took me in for many years, from initially being a stranger and then telling our group, we'll be gone by the time you get up, and we'll be back late tonight, so just go about your business. Or the Negrettis from California, Tony and Trina, who after the first year picked me up for close to 10 years from the airport and took me back. From the Wrightwood tournaments and then the SoCal Classic. And the Staubs of Florida. They continually cooked for both Mark and I, even though we kept on trying to take them out for dinner. I just think that they knew that my desired dinner stop would have been at the Golden Corral. Everywhere I've been, people have gone above and beyond to give this sense of togetherness, almost like family. Two more. And finally, there's Mark Yoda Friedenberg. While we played in dozens of tournaments, Mark's known for many, many years that I frankly don't remember any of them. It's all a big blur. What I will never forget, though, is Mark's hospitality, from taking me in during the early Grand Canyon State Games and the early Nationals, to saying anytime you want to come down, you've got a place to stay. He's always been there. As my body has deteriorated, as well as my game, my interests have slowly changed to old classic car auctions, like Barrick Jackson or Mccallum. I even bought a 1963 Lincoln Continental a couple years ago. So anyway, one day I called up Mark and asked him what he's doing on this and this days. I tell him Mccallum will be in town. In one breath, he manages to say he'll be in La Grande, out of town, for a pickleball tournament, but that I could stay at his place anyway. And then he starts on how he might be able to leave me his only car so I can get to the tournament every day, while he's thinking out loud how he can get to La Grande and back, an hour and a half away. Needless to say, I had to put a stop to that. Mark Yoda Friedenberg, my best friend, always. Thank you. If someone 43 years ago had told me, if you pick up that paddle, you will enjoy it. You'll play in at least 216 tournaments. At your peak, you'll be playing 6 days a week. Doubles, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, one location. Singles, Tuesday, Thursday at a different location. And Saturday at a third location for doubles. And when you tone it down a little, on Friday you'll play 3 or 4 hours of doubles, followed by up to 2 hours of singles. If this same person 43 years ago had told me that if you pick up that paddle, there would be a price to pay. If you pick up that paddle, you'll have thousands of leg cramps, and you'll pull your back out hundreds of times. You'll pull your back out many, many times just by coughing or sneezing, by brushing your teeth on the morning of a tournament and having to cancel, or even making a cake. You'll have to give up playing singles by the time you're 40. Playing doubles will become an issue by the time you're in your upper 40s. By the time you're 55, you'll have arthritis in your neck. You won't be able to play for up to 6 weeks at a time. You'll have arthritis in your lower back, so you'll have to be wearing a back brace. And with arthritis in your knee, you won't be able to squat down anymore. If this same person would ask me now, if you would have known all this 43 years ago, would you still pick up that paddle? All I have to do is think of all the people I've met over the last 43 years, both on and off the court, that I would have never otherwise met, and say, you bet your ass I'd do it all over again. Thank you.
Dan, I get to present you with this plaque. I'll read it. The Pickleball Hall of Fame is proud to award this expression of esteem and appreciation to Daniel Gabanek, class of 2019, in recognition of his dominance in the sport of pickleball from 1988 to 2014. During this period, he was ranked #1 nationally in men's open singles, earned 21 gold medals. He was ranked #1 in the men's open doubles, winning close to 60 gold medals. His record also includes over 13 open mixed doubles titles. He is a 4-time national champion and 4-time runner-up. Congratulations. And Dan, also, in appreciation, here's your Hall of Fame ring. Go ahead and open that if you'd like to.
Put it on. It's official.
You bet. Looks good. Looks good. And last but not least, here's some business cards that you can have for the Hall of Fame member. So congratulations, Dan.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, good evening. I'm Christy Gessfang, and for me to be in front of this elite group of pickleball players and their guests is incredibly humbling. I'm a lowly 4-0 older woman playing pickleball, having a wonderful time. This experience tonight is one that I will remember forever. I'd like to thank RIF, the Hall of Fame, board members, USAPA, for their efforts to make the Pickleball Hall of Fame a reality. I'd also like to congratulate all of the Hall of Fame inductees for 2019. Your collective commitment to excellence is unbelievable, and your service to pickleball is obviously humbling and outstanding. It's my pleasure and my honor to introduce Enrique Ruiz this evening. He is a man of exquisite nobility and grace. He's exactly what the Hall of Fame is all about. He is joining an elite group of pickleball legends off and on the court who never had an interest in ceremony, recognition, or self-promotion. They all were participating for the love of the game. The pure joy of playing competitively and recreationally was really where their hearts were. After all, pickleball players, as it's been mentioned, of all skill levels, will speak to the unique social contacts that we have in pickleball. Enrique's from San Miguel in the state of Sonora, Mexico, which is just inland from the Gulf of Mexico. His family moved to the United States when he was a 5th grader, and he eventually settled in Oregon and calls Oregon his home. That's where I got to meet Enrique, was on the courts in Bend, Oregon, through a mutual friend. Since that time, about 8 years ago, we've continued to just have a very, very unique friendship. We obviously don't play at the 5-0 pro level together, but he is more than gracious to me and so many other players and allows us to come on the court with him by his invitation. Enrique's played with and against the best players in the United States, and you all probably have heard of that. Not only this evening, you will hear a lot about Enrique and all the things that he has done, but like most players, he was introduced to the game of pickleball early on, and guess what? He started zooming up and down I-5 to Washington to learn more about this game as he became further and further addicted. Obviously, he was a good student, because look at the accomplishments that he has made. El Condor, that's what he's known as. Not only does Dan have a big wingspan, but so does Enrique. With that wingspan, he is able to dominate the courts for many, many years in both singles and doubles. Enrique has been on the winner's podium in all competitions that he's entered. With too many medals to list, I will highlight a few of them. 3-time Tournament of Champions gold medalist, multiple state and regional championships in Oregon, including the international indoors in Centralia, Washington regionals, Oregon, also in Idaho at the Selkirk tournaments, as well as in Arizona. At Melville Bishop, he swept in both age and open. At the Colorado Open, he garnered a gold medal in both men's open and mix. He's 6 times USAPA National Open champion. There's lots of bronze and silver medals, but I'm not going to list all of those. 30 years he's been playing pickleball professionally. 30 years, my goodness. He doesn't seem to be old enough in my mind. He's also sponsored by Selkirk with a signature paddle. Enrique is known for more than his medals. He's a true ambassador of the sport. He has helped many clubs, including the Bend Pickleball Club, which I'm a member of, to get started by donating his time and wisdom for fundraising and even clinics. What I have noticed is his generosity of time on the courts with many young and upcoming pickleball players. Not only veterans, but he gets out there with the very, very youngest 3.5, 4.0s, and has invited many of them in Oregon that I've witnessed to come and play with him in tournaments. I don't know a lot of teaching pros that would do that. Next year, his family, Enrique, will be returning to his hometown in Mexico to further donate his time and introduce and teach pickleball. Enrique is one of the finest people. He's a teammate and player that I have known on and off the court. Today, he is larger than life, focusing on the values and personal characteristics that have made him a proud father and family man. With his wonderful wife, June, they raised their young boy, who is also coming up the ranks. Look out. Don't be fooled by his genuine humility or his quiet demeanor. He is a man of many interests. That includes being an Oregon State Beaver fan, in case you didn't ever notice that. He also likes other sports, farming, gardening, and cooking. And we even share, via email or private messaging, recipes back and forth. So our friendship isn't just about pickleball. It's about the deepness of two people that just have a unique relationship. He's wrapped myself, my family, with those great big loving arms. The El Condor has embraced me at a time in my life when things were a little bit rocky, and he held me up. El Condor's place in the history of pickleball is secure. He has helped transition today's game, and his decades-long involvement with pickleball is an example we can all learn from. As great as it is to watch this unbelievably talented player, the reality is that we are the lucky ones to know and play with him. It's even better, though, and it's an honor to be his friend. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, Enrique Ruiz, aka the El Condor, as a member of the 2019 Pickleball Hall of Fame. Congratulations. It's your turn.
Wow, I don't really know what to say, you guys. I don't have anything planned, but I'm not very shy, so I don't mind speaking at all, and I'll keep this brief. Last night, we were having dinner at home, and my 5-year-old says to me, "Dad, are you gonna play pickleball?" I said, "No, not this time. I'm just gonna go watch and eat." And he said to me, "Sounds like you're not gonna bring home a medal this time for me, are you?" I said, "No, I'm not." He says, "Dad, go have a good time." And a good time is what I have had for going on 30 years now. And I'm so thankful for all of you guys that are here, and for all the volunteers at all the tournaments that I have been at. So I want to thank all of you guys for that. So many of you have donated money, especially your time, and that is very, very special. So I just want to thank you guys for that. My family at home, they're the responsible ones, because I'm here eating and playing a little pickup games while they're at home taking care of business. But I'm very grateful. It's been a wild ride, and I would do it all over again. It has changed my life in so many ways. You guys have changed my life. Many of you guys, and you know who you are. But, you know, at the end of the day, as I was thinking about this, listening to Dan, I was very proud of Dan, because I've known Dan for a long time. I think time has a way to teach us, to humble us, and we're all winners. At the end of the day, we are all winners. And I think for many of us that play pickleball, whether we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, we got to remember that we play pickleball because it's fun. And I always tell people when they come up to me and ask me, trust your partner, be kind to your partner, be uplifting to your partner, encourage them, say something nice, and if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. This goes for men, but especially in mixed doubles. You have to trust your partner and let them play. You know, I could go on and on, but I'm not, because out of respect for all of you guys. So I'm just very grateful to be here with all of you. Thank you for everybody that has worked hard to make this happen. And so I'm going into my 30th year. I'm kind of like Dan. Sometimes I wake up feeling really good. Sometimes not so good anymore. But I still feel that fire in me. And I love playing pickleball. And I'm going to continue playing pickleball probably until I'm playing like Barney Meyer used to do. Fran, I still remember, some of you guys remember Barney when he used to play, and he had a bad hip. You guys, many of you remember that. And I was so impressed by Barney. Every time he would go for a forehand drive, because of his bad hip, he couldn't stop, so he had to pivot and do a 360, and he was ready to go again. I want to be like Barney someday. So thank you guys all for being here.
And Enrique, I get to present you with the plaque, and I want to read it out loud to everybody. It says, in recognition of his dominance in the sport of pickleball for over 25 years, in addition to his numerous medals won before current majors, He is a 10-time national champion with 6 wins in open events. He is also a 5-time champion of the International Indoor Championships and 3-time winner of the Tournament of Champions. He is an ambassador of the sport, promoting the growth and expansion throughout the Northwest. Here you go, Enrique. Ring. And we have your ring.
Can I open it?
Yeah, open it. You're gonna put it right on your finger there.
Wow, my wife is gonna love this.
You got something to show your 5-year-old too.
Yes.
Got a special medal.
Yep, that's a special medal to bring home to your son tonight. Yep, or tomorrow. Congratulations, Enrique.
Thank you guys.
Oh, Enrique, here's also your card.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I want to first of all thank all of you for coming tonight. I know that's a little challenging for some of the players with the wild and crazy schedule you've had, but this really is a very special evening to honor all of our inductees. Before I start talking about my daughter also, I just want to bring to your attention, since I like to carry my camera with me, be sure you take a little peek at the photos that are out in front. I was compiling photos, of which I have a few, of Jennifer and Alex and maybe many of you in here. I thought it would just be fun for you guys to just see a little window into each of these athletes. And so for Steve and Enrique and Dan and Jennifer, I went through like 25 years of photos with all the different tournaments to find fun ones to share for you. So just take a peek because it's kind of fun. Also, I want to thank the committee and all of the Pickleball Hall of Fame for bringing us together to have a wonderful evening here at this venue. It's just really fun, and it gives you a wonderful opportunity to actually meet the athletes. You see them on the court, but I don't even recognize some of you when you don't have visors and hats on. And some of you guys are really good looking when your shirts aren't sweaty and you don't have that salt ring around your hat. But anyway, on to our daughter, Jennifer. She was introduced in a rather unusual way because Bob and I have been playing for quite a long time. And so when it came to special events, maybe Mother's Day, maybe Christmas afternoon, guess what we would do? We'd all get together to play pickleball. And this was really fun because pickleball is a family function. It can be such a wonderful way to bring you all together. So we'd play out on the driveway, or we'd play out on the courts if we met each other at some of the Thousand Trails preserves. Just a minute, I gotta put my glasses on because I can't read my notes anymore. But one of them that was really kind of fun was in Sun River, Oregon, which is right out of Bend, Oregon, Thousand Trails Preserve, and we had a fun tournament there. And that was really Jennifer's first official tournament. It was a family fun event, but it showed her how much fun everyone could have playing pickleball, regardless of age. We'd bring some of the other kids in to join us, and it was just really fun. And I think that's kind of what got her started. So when she came to watch Bob and I at Nationals one year, just to check out the whole venue, she got the bug. So guess what? She started in Nationals with Alex as her partner for women's doubles. And the first year that they played, they didn't medal. They'd played 2 weeks before at the Nationals for tennis and then came over to pickleball. And they got dinked to death. And if any of you are previous tennis players, tennis players don't know what dinks are, so this is a unique part of our game. So they said to Dad, work with us on dinks because we want to come back and we want a medal. So Alex and Jennifer then held the title for the next 4 years because nobody out-dinked them. So that was the beginning of her championships with the pickleball. Because of that, then she got involved with so many other things that when I looked through the list, even though we've been with her with a lot of these, when I summarize it to share it with you, it kind of really even surprised me, all of the accomplishments that she has done. And I had to write them down or I wouldn't remember to tell you. But she, after the Nationals for the first 4 years, which was 2010 to 2014, then she's off and running and hasn't quit since. She, during Pickleball Inc., was the very first sponsored player ever for our sport. And she was sponsored by not being an owner of a paddle company or a company of pickleball equipment, but just simply a player. And I don't think a lot of people knew that, but that's kind of cool to be the very first sponsored player. Then she also, for Pickleball Inc., which was our first company, was a blogger for them. Now, at that time, that was kind of a new concept, but she's always really been good with the technology, so that was a way to share what was going on in pickleball. Then she became the publisher for the USAPA newsletter, and she did that for a couple years along with the rest of the crew. She continued to be an influencer and an international blogger, and she continues to help pickleball growing by all her volunteering. As an example, and these are the things that surprise even a parent, when you summarize them, she's one of the founding members, as Riff said, of IPTPA. She's a board member of the Pickleball magazine, and she's a co-contributor along with Alex every time that the magazine is printed. She's a USAPA ambassador at large, but a lot of people call her a global ambassador, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. She's the co-director of the IPTPA Regional Training and Testing in Southern California, because as we grow, we have lots of new changes and everybody steps up to help keep the integrity of the game and just keep it rolling. Then she also does interviews on the Pickleball Show podcast. So those are just some of the things that she's done. Because she's an RVer, this opens up so many doors to be able to visit so many people throughout the United States, as her and Brandon pick a different spot every year to travel. So she meets the players and she shares her love. One day she told me they were, I think, in Idaho, and they're driving down the road and she saw a pickleball court. I don't even remember what town it was, but there were people playing. She said, Brandon, stop the motorhome. I want to go meet these people. He does a Yui. She gets her tennis shoes on, she gets her paddle, and she goes to the court. They have no clue who she is. And she said, can I join you in a game? And they said, oh, sure. And it was just fun because then they realized who she was, and they just thought that was so cool that someone who has had such accomplishments would just stop on the side of the road and join them in a game. But this is what you can do in pickleball. We never want to see that intensity and that passion disappear. That's what makes our sport so special, is that we just share it with everybody, regardless of what age, and you just have fun, regardless of the level of play that you are in. While they're traveling and meeting all of these pickleball players, I had to write down all the places. Not only has she played and visited all over the United States and Canada, she's gone to the Caribbean, Costa Rica, Japan, Mexico, the Netherlands, Spain, Singapore, and I think Thailand was this year, and Japan was this year. And Brandon goes on most of the trips. Sometimes I think she's gone on some of them by herself or with the group, but most of the time Brandon. And they share the passion of the sport all along. Pretty cool, isn't it? Who would have thought that you could travel internationally and play the sport that you dearly love? Her home courts are Melba Bishop, which is in Southern California, just about an hour north of San Diego, Melba Bishop, and Castle Creek. And we have a lot of players that have been represented here at Nationals also because of that. Now, here's the interesting thing I had to write. One of the requirements as a Hall of Famer is your accomplishments. She's a 17-time USAPA National winner, 11 times Canadian National Gold, 6 Huntsman World Senior Games once she turned 50. It's hard to believe I have a daughter that's over 50. 6 international tournaments Gold, 4 TOC, US Open, and there's a host of other tournaments all over the place that she's participated. Those are just kind of the main ones. And of course, one of the most recent and funnest one is that Jennifer and I have spent 4 years to research the history of pickleball. And so we launched that book a year ago, and it's called The History of Pickleball, More Than 50 Years of Fun. So some of you are in this book, and that's something that's very dear to us because some of these folks that have so much to share with us are no longer with us. So we're very blessed that we were able to put this book together when we did. And that's about it. It's just been a wonderful road to travel. So it's my pleasure now, after all of that, to introduce my daughter, Jennifer Lucore, as the new inductee into the 2019 Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Woo-woo. She swore it would be 2 minutes. We've had several talks about this. But no, thank you very much, Mom. I know they're very proud, and I'm super excited to have my parents here and Mom to share. So anyway, I did want to thank the Hall of Fame for the nomination and for being in this club with many of you in this room. And I just can't believe it. I mean, I can't believe that I'm in the same club as one of the founders, Barney. You know, it's like, oh my God, so honored. I'd like to quickly share tonight a quick journey and then pretty much thank the people who got me here. Since 2000, we've been hearing my parents talk about pickleball. They go to state and they play games and they get medals, and my brother and I are like, oh yeah, Mom and Dad are playing pickleball. You know, kind of, quietly make fun of them, as we all had that thing happen. In fact, did you guys know that I have a brother? No. So since he's here, Scott Youngren, please stand up. Yes! There he is, thank you. So it's very cool because people are like, you have a brother? What? So anyway, so Scott and I would make fun of Mom and Dad, and then, and now, Scott makes fun of the three of us, I think, something like that. Exactly. So basically, I started pickleball at the young age of 42. So I've been rolling since then, and my first big thanks goes to Alex Hamner. So, oh yeah, you can stand. You stand. There he is. Hey, Miss Alex Hamner. So really, I mean, I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for her, because half those medals we would win together in our doubles. So I'm so grateful for her friendship and her pickleball partnership through all these 10+ years we've been playing. So it's super awesome. And for many of you that know Alex and I would like to share that we really think it's more of the journey instead of the destination. So we're cruising to a pickleball tournament, be it a road trip or whatever, and all the funny things that happen on the way. Taking pictures, and then we meet up with players and we do pranks and hide their luggage, and like we're in high school or something, right? It's so fun. So and Hillary joins us, and I mean, just different people. So so that ride is, I mean, just the journey is just so fun. And of course, it's fun when you're winning, right? I mean, everything's great. Oh, this is so fun, and we won again. But then there's times that you don't win, right? And you're like, oh, okay, did not win today. So for me, it's probably about 5 minutes, I'm bummed. And then we meet up with, we go out for like yummy dinner, have some wine, a little chocolate with good friends, right? And then you're like all good, and then we do it all again the next day. So it's so that's kind of super fun on that. My other shout out is to my dad. So would Dad please stand? Yes, Dad. Woo! So I have such shy parents, right? They're so quiet. Nobody knows all the stories. But I need to thank Dad also because, as Alex would share too, that he taught us all our pickleball stuff. Great coach. Mom has pictures of him for years. He's on the fence, you know, yelling at us, "No, get to the line. We're on the line. No, you're not even close to the kitchen line." You know, in fact, once he's like, "I'll give you each $20 if you get to the line." We're like, and you get called, right? Like, I want to hear you get like a fault, like you get in trouble. I'm like, "Oh no, we can't get in trouble." So we tried to step on the line and we couldn't even do it. So it was fun. But thank you, Dad, for all the different years and stuff. So pickleball has given me the opportunity to travel, and I just, you know, tell people it's like you're riding the wave. Like these opportunities come up, and it's fun. I have 2 girls, and they would always say, "Oh, so where are you going now?" You know, like, "Oh, I'm going here," and they'd kind of giggle that I have this pickleball blog and Mom does this, and you know, it's hard to explain to your friends' parents like what the heck your mom does. But I do have one daughter here, Lindsay, who flew in from Colorado. So Lindsay, you get to stand up. Yay, Lindsay. Yes. So I have one, and then I have another Lauren, and she's traveling the world for work, so she couldn't make it, but I always like to point that out. So I've been playing pickleball pretty much since 2010, cruising around, playing tournaments, and then Alex Hamner, poor thing, has a full-time job, so even today, so she can't get away as much, so we play a lot of the top tournaments, so I'm like, God, I want to play some other tournaments. So through my path, I met this character named Chris Miller. This guy from Seattle, and he's like, oh gosh, he had a really flexible schedule. And it's like, wow, like you have the whole summer off. Let's go play Canada. Let's play a bunch of Washington and stuff. So because of Chris, oh, should you stand up? Let's have you stand up, Chris Miller. Yay! Through Chris's friendship, we got to travel. We traveled, you know, I had someone, you know, because it's not that fun if you like always go by yourself, right? And then Chris introduced me to like the Seattle group, right? So back then, right, 10 years, like this group that would play in Seattle, they were like totally into it. They were like the top players. They trash talk each other all day long, and they play all day long. And I'm like, oh my gosh, sign me up. Because that's like so fun. So through Chris, then I met Dan and Mark and Tim and Enrique and Wes and all these players from that whole Seattle thing. So it's just, I feel so fortunate to kind of been let into that little group. And I played at Dan's house. He does have all that, I don't remember the vegetable saying really. But playing there all day long, barbecued, stay at Dan's house, and then the next day play all day long. So it was awesome. So fond memories of that. Another shout out to a Seattle boy would be David Mccallum. And he is, he was the owner of Pickleball Inc. And friendship with David, we kind of had this partnership that I was a sponsored player, but I also helped Pickleball Inc. with their marketing. So I would fly up there to Seattle, do that, and then get to hang with all those Seattle people, and we'd play tournaments. And like we play all day long, talk about it at night, and then play it all day long. It's like, it was so awesome. So I wanted to thank you very much, David. Yay, yay. And so David, of course, his father is Barney Mccallum, right? So when I was meeting up with Barney and Pickleball Inc., then that's how I got to meet Barney Mccallum. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know this, but he is our last living founder, right? And he's 93. So he's still doing great. He's up in Seattle. So I'm, you know, so grateful and blessed for that. So, you know, clap for Barney. Yay, Barney. And so, again, Seattle group, David, and then I got to go to Bainbridge Island, and then I get to meet all these Bainbridge Island people that are there, right? So a lot of them were there at the beginning, like we talked about in the history book, that were there at the beginning of the sport. They're on the marketing material, and a lot of them are here tonight. So if you're a Bainbridge Island person, please stand up. Yay! Lee, look at that! Right? So these guys, I mean, they know all about the history and things like that. So also, so I've, like I said, I've traveled around, competed across the country, and my biggest thank you is to another guy who allowed me, encouraged me to, you know, like follow this little pickleball path. And he would say, yeah, sure, go there, go play there, good luck there. So my husband, Brandon, please stand. Yay! Nice, nice. So should I have all my family stand one more time? Yes. Okay, all my family stand. Was that last? Stand up. Go, dance. Oh, they're all sad. There, go stand up. Yay! You really didn't have to clap after everyone, but that's my last one. But I had some other ones back there that didn't want to stand. But so basically, I was so thankful you guys are all here. And, you know, gold medals are awesome, but the fact that I'm standing here, you know, I just can't believe it, in the Hall of Fame. And I'm so grateful, so love the sport. And all the people, and you know, Dan shared it so great about those friendships and the people you meet and the host families, and it just blows my mind. So thank you. And did I tell you I can't believe I'm in the same club as Barney?
Well, I get the distinct privilege of presenting you, Jennifer, with your Hall of Fame plaque.
Thank you.
It's inscribed, Jennifer Liqueur, class of 2019, in recognition of her dominance in the sport of pickleball from 2010 until present. During this time, she won gold at 17 USAPA Nationals, 11 Canadian Nationals, 6 Huntsman World Senior Games, 6 International, 4 Tournaments of Champions, and 2 U.S. Open titles. Congratulations, Jennifer.
Thank you very much.
Yep. We have more.
All right.
Here's your ring.
Nice. I got to open it here.
Yep.
Wow.
Looks good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There's more.
Thanks.
Great job.
Are we having a good time tonight? What an awesome ceremony. Awesome ceremony. Before I get to Steve, okay, I want to congratulate the other inductees. Dan, what I remember about you and all the years of playing pickleball is your love of chocolate milk, your love of hot dogs, but also your intimidating presence. So congratulations on your induction. Jen, where are you? Jen, right there. I remember that smile on the courts, whether it was in victory or defeat, more so in victory. Your fun personality, your hospitality. Thanks for hosting me for a couple tournaments in San Diego. And then Enrique, right there. I remember you as a competitor, a great partner, a friend, and thank you for forcing me to play with both hands. So thank you for showing me the way there. Let's give these three a round of applause. So in the 7 or 8 years that I've played pickleball competitively, there are 2 people that have had the greatest influence on me. The first is Christine Barksdale, because she introduced me to pickleball again. But the person that's had the greatest impact on my pickleball playing career is Steve Burano. Steve is like my pickleball dad. He took me under his wing and has taught me a lot about life, a lot about pickleball. The first time I met Steve, I've got a story for you about that. So it was 2012. It was an indoor tournament in Oregon. I looked at the brackets and I saw this name, Steve Paranto. I'd heard about Steve Paranto being this legendary pickleball figure. Well, it was a singles event, and if I won my first match and he won his first, then we were going to play each other. So I was very excited for that. I went up to him and I introduced myself. I said, "Hey, Steve. I've heard a lot about you." I said, if I win my first match, then I get to play you. Now, Steve may tell a different version of that story, where he said that I told him, when I win my first match, we're going to play each other, but that wasn't the case. So we play. We have a good competitive match. I was fortunate to beat him. As the tournament went on, I eventually played Enrique, and Enrique beat me in like this 2-hour singles match. Little did I know that Steve had worked his way through the loser's bracket and was looking for a rematch. Now, there were about 3 or 4 people that defaulted that helped Steve move through that bracket. But eventually, he was going to have to play the loser of the match between Enrique and I. Little did I know that Steve had enjoyed the amenities of that tournament, being the 5 free beers that you get to have at this tournament. Steve used his punch card, all 5 beers, came out and played the best singles I've ever seen him play, and I think I beat you like 17-15. I have never seen a performance like that before, but for all of you that know Steve, he loves pickleball and he loves beer, right? From that moment forward, we created a bond and friendship that has grown stronger each year. Dan, I think, mentioned going to Steve's house, and it's like this wonderful playland for adults where you've got pickleball and you've got all these fun games. Remember the first time I walked into his house, Steve looked at me and he goes, "Can you tell that I'm not married?" Because I walk in, there's a ping pong table, there's a pool table for his dining room table, there's all these fun games. And he is one of the most welcoming and friendly people on the planet. But that backyard court became our laboratory. Right? He taught me so much about dinking strategy and pickleball and life, and I am forever grateful to you for that. So thank you. Steve is being inducted tonight as a contributor. But when I think about Steve, I think about him as a player, I think about him as an instructor, I think about him as an innovator, and most importantly, an investor. And I'll get to that a little bit later. I'm going to give you a little brief biography of his time as a player. So Steve began playing in 1974 as a student at Green River Community College. So he has been a 5-0 for 45 years. Let's give him a round of applause for that. He played in and took 2nd place. He calls himself the world's first loser in the very first singles and doubles tournament ever in 1976. Steve won the first USAPA National Pickleball Championships in 1986 with Richard Skeffington, and that tournament was run by Hall of Famer Sid Williams. They were the first doubles team to ever use a composite paddle in a tournament, so everyone else was using a wood paddle. He is a 3-time national senior men's champion with his friend Randy Byther, who he's been playing doubles with since 1989. And he is a 4-time World Senior Games champion in singles. So let's give him a round of applause for his playing career. As I mentioned, Steve is being inducted tonight as a contributor. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that he's done in this category. He introduced and taught the sport in Oregon physical education programs from 1980 to 2009 when he retired. He helped his father, Hall of Fame inductee Arlen Paronto, create the first modern paddle in 1984. and designed the first oversized paddle, which was the Magnum Pro Light paddle in 1985. Thank you, Steve, for creating that. I love that paddle. He was one of the first people to introduce the third shot drop in pickleball. And we think about how many of you use a third ball drop in pickleball? If your hand's not up, it should be up. Please use it. He introduced stacking in the mid-90s with partner Randy Byther, who's about a 6'6" left-handed guy, so something that all of us use today. He organized and ran free clinics in the Northwest, at Tournament of Champions, at Nationals. He was one of the first IPTPA certified instructors. He was an original and current contributor of instructional articles in Pickleball Magazine. He designed several paddles that people use with Onyx today. He was, when the PPF was around, if you remember that, he was a very popular live stream commentator, kind of setting the stage for good color commentary that we have today. And how many of you have heard of his Pickleball Talks podcast or listened to that? We haven't had some episodes for a while, but I hear that that's coming back in a new format, right, Steve? Yeah, so he's got his hand in everything pickleball, right, since 1974. I mentioned that he is an investor. Now, he's not an investor in terms of finances here, but he's an investor in people, right? Hands up for me if you have ever been to Steve's house to play pickleball, okay? When you're there, you feel like you're being treated first class all the way. He's so giving and he's generous. He's wonderful. He'll come up to new players, regardless of skill level. He invests in people. But he's also an incredible coach. So I'm going to list for you the names of some individuals who have been coached by him and have won national titles as a result. Christine Barksdale, Joy Lysing, Sarah Ansbury, Bonnie Williams, where are you? I think I saw you in the back there. Bonnie Williams, Jane Paulson, Enrique Ruiz, Curtis Campbell, Tony Tolinar, and Eric Lang, just to name a few. So he has had a hand in starting those players and helping them become the players that they are today. Most importantly, Steve is kind-hearted, he's friendly, he loves people, and he loves pickleball. I'm going to read a quick paragraph here that sums up Steve and his accomplishments. In closing, Steve Paranto has impacted the sport of pickleball in so many ways, from its inception in a competitive setting as a successful player, through fostering educational and instructional approaches to the game, having an impact on the technology and improvement of paddle design and competition, mentoring and coaching national champions, and developing the idea of using stacking and hitting the third ball drop. No one has given as much time and energy and passion to and for the game of pickleball as Steve Paranto since 1974. You can applaud for that. His success on the court and longevity alone make him worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. But his successful playing career, coupled with his innovations, make him ultimately worthy of induction. You could not write the history of the sport of pickleball without including the name of Steve Paranto. His fingerprints can be found in today's game in the areas of paddle design, double strategy, coaching, instructional certification, and many other areas of today's game. I know for one thing for sure at this moment, Steve, is that your father, Arlen, is looking down on you right now, and he is so proud of you and everything you've done. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for everyone in this room. I know your dad is extremely proud of you, and come on up. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Steve.
Love you, my friend. Great job.
Wow, I want to meet this Steve Paranto. Thanks, Wes, for doing that. I knew, Wes has been like that son that I don't have too. So, originally when I wrote this speech, and then I practiced in my podcast room. I'm doing all these shows, and didn't sound good when I just read it. Just sound better when I talked. So I've just kind of wrote some things out that I'm just going to remind me of what I want to talk about tonight, and maybe it'll even be a little bit of a history lesson for some of you that I think will be fun. And I think that's the way I'll do this. But first off, I can't tell you how happy I am to be inducted with the quality of people and pickleball players. And I mean, I'm being inducted with Jennifer Lucore, Enrique, Dan Gabanek. These guys are just people I look up to. I've known Enrique since, well, it's been probably over 20 years, Dan for over 30 years. I could tell you lots of stories, but we won't go into all those stories. But anyway, just being inducted with that group of people. I want everyone to know this means a ton to me because the sport has meant everything to me. I mean, who thought that this would happen, where a sport means this much to a person's life, that it changes their life like it has? And everybody there's probably everybody in this room that feels that way. Look at all the friends we've gained through pickleball. How many of you, when you look on your Facebook page, you realize, man, they're all pickleball players? And then when you have a party at your house, you realize, oh, I feel sorry for that one couple over there because they're the only non-pickleball people. So I better go talk to them and make them feel a little comfortable. But this journey for me started 45 years ago, and really the reason I'm here being inducted in the Hall of Fame is I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. So in 1974, I'm going to this community college, Green River Community College, and I think, Chris Miller, you went to Green River Community College too, 10 years after I did. But anyway, I'm at this college, and there's this gymnasium where on the side court there's people hitting pickleballs around, and we were all tennis players. I went there to play tennis. And the first weeks that I'm there, all the professors were on strike. So me and some tennis buddies thought, well, let's just play pickleball every day. So my first month of college, I just played pickleball every day. There was no classes. I'm just playing pickleball. And that's when I met Dave Lester. And Dave Lester is this guy who had a big badminton background. He was on the tennis team with me, and he was a table tennis guy. He was a little older than me, so I was 18 and he was about 22. We thought he was ancient. But this guy could combine all these little, you know how we always say pickleball is a combination of table tennis, badminton? Well, this guy was doing it back then. And so very innovative, and we would just play singles together all day long, and then we would enter we actually had recreational tournaments in 1974 at this community college, and we would win all those tournaments. Later on, Matthew Blom's over there with a camera videotaping. Dave, this is how pickleball, the circle goes around and around. Dave Lester taught Matthew Blom how to play pickleball, didn't he? And badminton, so yeah. So it's funny, I mean, there's so many people in here that you have taught so many people, and I like to always talk about my pickleball grandbabies. And I have Shonda right over here, who's one of my pickleball grandbabies. Enrique's a pickleball grandbaby. So when you teach somebody, and then they teach someone else, those are your pickleball grandbabies. So I may have a few in here, but I always think of Shonda, and I always think of Enrique, and Brian Ashworth is one of my pickleball grandbabies because I have to mention Larry Seekins. So I taught Larry Seekins, if anybody knows Larry, who's in Montana, and that's how that group all learned the game. So, you know, when you teach people, they teach people, and then they teach people, and it's just a big journey. Talking about the world's first tournament. So in 1976, so Dave and I had been playing all these community college rec tournaments. And then all of a sudden there's a flyer at our Green River College saying there's going to be the world's first pickleball tournament. Well, let's go play. We're going to kill everybody. Nobody can beat us. You know how you feel when you're the high school champion, right? Or and then you realize you're going against all the other college champions. Anyway, we go to this, we go to practice the night before, and oh my gosh, the balls are the wrong size. We were using softball size COSM balls, not baseball size, for 2 years. So we were using the wrong size ball. So the night before, we had to get acclimated to playing this game with a smaller ball, and we did. Well, the next day is the singles tournament. By the way, all those early tournaments, many of them were played on indoor-outdoor carpet. And this tournament was on indoor-outdoor carpet in South Center Athletic Club, which was near where the game was invented. So we're playing indoor-outdoor carpet. The matches were 3 out of 5, not 2 out of 3. We had about 75 people in this tournament. They were mostly all tennis players from other community colleges just like us. Well, the first day singles, and the first thing I look at is the draw, because I did not beat Dave Lester. He was always beating me. And thank goodness he was in the other half of the draw. And we keep winning, 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 and then we come to the semis, and he has to beat a guy from Weyerhaeuser. Now, Tony Longbreak is here. Tony, where are you at? So Tony worked at Weyerhaeuser. Weyerhaeuser was a company that had their own pickleball courts. And so every day they would play at noon, and they got very good. Well, Dave had to play one of the guys. In fact, it was, Tony, it was Brian, say it again. Brian Ogden in his, and I played Phil White in my semi. These guys were about 30 years old. In fact, Phil White was an Olympic hopeful pole vault guy. That's who I had to play. But I was 20 and he was 30, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to lose to an old guy like that. That to me just seemed like, and I remember we had a long match. Remember, it's 3 out of 5. I beat him, and I got to play Dave in the final, and Dave beat me. And so lose my first final of a big tournament. Then we play doubles the next day, and we think, well, we're two tennis stars. We're not going to, there's nobody can beat us. And we come up against Scott Stover. Scott, raise your hand right here. He's here tonight. And Rob Cahill. And they were a little older than us. Scott, how old are you right now? You 69. So like 5, 6 years older than us. And we're kind of thinking there's no way we're going to lose people 5. You know how you think when you're 20 and you think a 26-year-old's too old. Well, anyway, these guys come out and they didn't hit the ball hard. They're hitting this kind of, it wasn't exactly like the dink today but it was soft enough where we had to hit up, and we're hitting hard, and we're not doing very well. And if I think you guys beat us 3 straight. What, do you remember it that way? Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. And so that's how I tell the story that I'm the first loser of pickleball, because that was the world's first championship, and I lost not only the singles finals, but I lost the doubles final. And Scott's picture was always on the back then. When Pickleball Inc. came out with their little set of paddles and everything, Scott's flowing blonde hair was on the box, and I would always see him on Seattle Sonics basketball games, because what was your job for the Sonics? You were always on the side. Pardon? He ran the 24-second clock. So last year was the first time we had met since practically those days, and we talked last year at National, so it's great to see Scott here. And now, guess what? He owns the original court at Bainbridge Island. So history right there. So a few years later, I became an elementary PE teacher, and I shared this sport with all my elementary PE teacher friends. I would share it at PE conferences. We put lines on the playground, and we made, this is before portable nets, so we had coffee cans with sticks coming out of them with a badminton net. The kids would put the nets up every morning, and since my dad at this time was already making the composite paddles, we just put a bucket of blemish paddles out, and so the kids got to play with ProLite paddles at the elementary school. Just grab them in a bucket and play all day. So that was important to me. Another big step that was important to me was having Sid Williams be involved with forming the USAPA back in the early 80s, because now I had a reason to play tournaments and to be competitive and to practice. I forgot to show you, back in that, this is the very same paddle, Scott, that I played with when I played against you in 1976. And I saved this. This has been on my wall. And there's that picture that they showed earlier when I had muscles. This is the paddle I was using. Back then, we did not have rules yet about holes. And when my dad, now here is, this is the history lesson. This is the world's first composite paddle. So this was the beginning of ProLite. This is floor paneling from a Boeing jet airplane. Well, my dad was on this rules committee with the USAPA, with Sid. And we started the company that then came out with this. So that was our first, you know, everybody had this paddle. If you didn't have this paddle, you weren't a tournament player. You had to have this. But I told Dad, since he was on the rules committee, why don't you say that it's against the rules to put holes in a paddle, because that's the only way wood could compete with us, because it'll cause spin. It really doesn't. We just said that. And that is why today we don't have holes in paddles. And that's, I would tell you right now, if you wanted to, I don't know how many paddle company people are here, but if we wanted to make a better paddle, we would have holes in it. So next year we'll probably see paddles with holes. I also have to thank, there's so many people I want to thank that were important in my life in pickleball, and besides Dave Lester, then it became Richard Skeffington. That was the partner that I won a lot with when we were the first ones using composite paddles. And Richard went on later to be a top singles player. In fact, Dan can tell you, I think that's the only person, Dan, he's talking to Mark. Dan, isn't Richard, you told me, is the only person you never beat in singles in that era? Oh, you said there was more. But I know that you said Richard had your number. So Richard later became a great singles player too. And he'll tell you that one night I called him like at 1 in the morning to tell him, I got this idea. I dropped a ball from this high, but not very far over the net, and it doesn't bounce high. We have to change our third shot. We have to have arch. And he said, you know, you're calling me up in the middle of the night to tell me about this. But so that's how obsessed I was. But me complaining about the heavy wood paddles is what made my dad make those first composite paddles. Wes has talked about a lot of the things that I've done, but scheduling, running tournaments in Oregon. In 1989, we did something that nobody had ever done. And at the time we had the paddle company, we wanted to sell our paddles too, so we wanted to promote the sport. But we turned Tualatin Hills Rec Center, which some of you have probably played pickleball there now, we rented their tennis courts out indoors and turned them into a bunch of pickleball courts, and had at the time the world's biggest pickleball tournament. And at the time it was about 200 people. Well, that was gigantic in 1989. And that was, again, portable standards that my dad figured out how to make. They were nothing like today's portable standards, but I believe that's probably the first time ever that someone turned tennis courts into pickleball courts for a tournament. Well, in the Oregon scene, I have to tell you, we would not have the players that we have if some special things didn't happen. It's kind of like how when Paul McCartney and John Lennon met when they were teenagers, some of the things that happened in Oregon to make us have great players. It's just kind of a freakish thing, and I hope that somehow it continues. But all of a sudden, we had Enrique show up and be such a great player that could go to Seattle and compete with the big boys in Seattle, because Seattle really dominated. And he could do that. So that was very important. Then all of a sudden, we had Enrique show up. I'm sorry, we had Wes show up. And so now we have two guys, and they both switch. Yeah, it was two Enriques. So we have two guys who can play at that level. And then it just kind of snowballed. Because, you know, you really can't have a good pickleball community until you have at least 4 really good players. Because those 4 have to drill and play together, and then they have to teach other people. And I think one of the things I'm most proud about Oregon, when we did get good players, we shared our knowledge, and we did clinics, we just helped people out. And again, we had a private little place to play indoors because our weather is horrible. We had June Crabb's house. So June Crabb built an indoor pickleball court, wood floor. Back then, a lot of the tournaments were on wood. And I don't believe Enrique would be as good as he is, and Wes wouldn't be as good as he is. I could go down the list with Joy and Christine and myself and Randy Byther if we wouldn't have had that court in those days. And then June passed away 3 years ago while we were at Nationals, if those of you know June, so we all miss June. But her husband still, anytime I want to use his court to give lessons, sure. So if I ever want to use June's house, I can. And then what happened is Sheila Schoonover, who's been my partner for a lot of years in mixed, also built an indoor court, and we play there. I mean, how many times, I'm looking at these guys, have we just called up Sheila and said, can we use your court? And I don't, are the Boyskas here tonight? Same kind of deal where we have, so in the Northwest, we do not have indoor courts to go play like a lot of you do. So a lot of this became from just private individuals. Also, Mike and Ton Wolf they're the ones that really helped us have our first established dedicated courts in our area. They're not here tonight, and I just want to read off all the players that have just happened to show up. Christine Barksdale, Joy Lysing, Curtis Campbell, Sarah Ansbury. You know, and when I say Sarah and Rob Davidson back to back, I hate it when we get such great players in our area and then they move away because they become professional pickleball instructors and then we lose them. But Ann Britt, Marty Butler, Tim and Will Gardner, Rick Hammerquist, Mark Sendelbach, Jane Polson, Eric Lane, and Jesse Compton, just to name a few, and there's hopefully a whole bunch more players coming up. Other thing that was important to me was having Seymour start the IPTPA to be the very first person to decide that, you know what, we need to make sure pickleball is taught in a nice progression, the correct way. This guy's coming from gymnastics where, you know, you don't learn a round off back handspring before you do a forward roll, okay? Well, pickleball's like that. And he was the first one to create this nice progression, got all these instructors together, and it's meant a lot to me because I've got to see places I've never been in my life. I was in England with Seymour 2 months ago teaching pickleball, and by the way, they love pickleball just like you do. And we're teaching a clinic to teach the teacher workshop, and it just got to me because we're going around the table how it impacts their lives, and then Seymour introduces me and I just break down and cry. And I couldn't help it because I'm this far away from where I learned pickleball when we only had 50 people playing in the world, and I'm in England teaching pickleball. So it just got to me what I see. My podcast would have never happened without Lala. So everybody thinks that I know how to, yeah, clap. And my technology skills are so bad and hers are so good. And so, and supportive. And we had some crazy moments on that show. You know, there's some live I had a live call-in show. I have 23 episodes out there, and they're great. You should listen to them. You can use a podcast app to listen to them. But the very first night we did a show, we forgot to turn off the mic, and it's like the old Krusty the Clown kind of thing. That ought to keep the little bastards happy for I mean, it wasn't exactly like that, but that we didn't realize. Then we were getting phone calls. Do you know you're still on? God. And so, and it was actually worse than that, to tell you the truth. But the people that have, you know, and as a teacher, I learned this. I keep improving my game and trying to be relevant. Well, I'm here because I'm trying to stay relevant with this game. How many of you are watching the Newmans and thinking, I think I better go home and practice a two-hand dink, right? So Timothy Nelson taught me a lot just by me watching him and being on the court, and I had a great time playing with him the other day. Steve Wong, Dave White. Oh, these are people that have been on my show too, by the way. In fact, Timothy was one of my first guests on my show. Shonda and Rob were on my show on Valentine's night. And we did a show about playing with your spouse. So it was perfect. Steve Wong, when he was on my show, we had Dave call, and I'm doing a blank on Dave's last name, called in that did the resuscitation and saved Steve's life a year ago. I had Simone on my show, and then Catherine Paranto, we're a distant cousin, by the way, those of you who wonder, but call in and made Simone cry because telling her how she changed her life. She played for her in college. So I had some very, very good shows that I'm very proud of. I had the eye specialist come on talking about protecting our eyes, and if I can save one person's eye from somebody losing an eye, that's totally worth it for me. Dan Gigrich talking about the mental performance. So many great shows, but guess what was my highest rated show? I had the nudist on from Florida talking about his passion for nude pickleball. And you know what? It was kind of, after a while, I wanted to take my clothes off and play pickleball. Yeah, I keep them. Yeah, I'm having friends say keep them on. But a few weeks back, I got to do a clinic with Bonnie for the Blazers, for their general manager on the Blazers floor where they train. Now, I'm a sports nut. I was a PE teacher for 30 years. I'm getting a call from the Portland general manager of Portland Trail Blazers wanting me to do a clinic? Yes. I call Bonnie up. She says, yes. It's at 6 in the morning. Okay. We're still there. And then when we're finishing, the Blazers are walking in, the coaches walking in, and Coach Stotts, I thought was about 6'2", because he's always looks small next to the basketball players. He's 6'8". So anyway, you see these giants. My goal, by the way, is for me to then get to, and hope Bonnie and I could do this, teach the actual Blazers to play pickleball. Wouldn't it be fun teaching a 7-footer how to play pickleball? Yeah. I've learned so much from all my students that I've given lessons to in my backyard. I do a lot of lessons in my backyard. And Rosalie, special student right here, Rosalie flew in just to be here for me. So. And I believe of all the students I've given lessons to, she's probably won the most medals. And she's in the 80-year-old bracket this year, and she fights like the Dickens on the court. And it's just as much fun coaching an 80-year-old as it is a 20-year-old. It just, you know, it just, in fact, I think right now my strength is probably coaching seniors, but anyway. The other special thanks I want to make to this body that has formed the Hall of Fame. We talked about forming a Hall of Fame. I remember being at parties where Mark and I were talking about, hey, we got to do a Hall of Fame. And we talked and we talked and we talked, and we didn't do anything. And Seymour just does it. And if he wouldn't have, I believe we would have had a Hall of Fame someday, but probably not when we did. Well, if we wouldn't have had it when Seymour jumped in, that means Sid Williams, who's passed away about 5 months later, would have never experienced that. My dad would have never experienced that. And if you know how much it meant to those two people. So thank you, Seymour, for that, because that... and again, just a special thanks to everybody for showing up for this. And I really don't have anything else to say, but I'm sure I left some people out of this speech, but this means a ton to me. I can't even tell you how much. So thank you very much.
So it's my honor to read the plaque here for you. The Pickleball Hall of Fame is proud to award this expression of esteem and appreciation to Steve Paranto, class of 2019, in recognition of his contribution to the sport of pickleball as the co-developer of the first non-wood composite lightweight paddle. He was also the designer of the first Magnum oversized paddle. He has competed at the Open/5-0 level longer than any player to date from 1974 to 2019. He has promoted the growth of pickleball by teaching, coaching, and directing tournaments for over 30 years. So congratulations, Steve. And we've got one more gift for you here. The ring for you. Should be a ring in there. Yeah. Oh, the ring's in this one. Those are the cards.
Okay.
Will the 4 inductees please come up for some pictures? All right, that concludes our evening. Thank you all for coming. Good luck to the competitors for tomorrow. Thank you all very much for coming and supporting pickleball.
The Pickleball Hall of Fame is proud to award this expression of esteem and appreciation to Steve Paranto. In recognition of his contribution to the sport of pickleball as the co-developer of the first non-wood composite lightweight paddle, he was also the designer of the first Magnum oversized paddle. He has competed at the Open 5.0 level longer than any player to date, from 1974 to 2019. Yeah, that's some longevity right there. He has promoted the growth of pickleball by teaching, coaching, and directing tournaments for over 30 years. Please give a big round of applause for Steve Paranto. And the Pickleball Hall of Fame is proud to award this expression of esteem as well and appreciation to Daniel Gabanek. In recognition of his dominance in the sport of pickleball from 1988 to 2014, during this period, he was ranked #1 nationally in men's open singles, earning 21 gold medals. He was ranked #1 in men's open doubles, winning close to 60 gold medals. His record also includes over 13 open mixed double titles. He is a 4-time national champion and a 4-time runner-up. Please give a big round of applause for Daniel Gavin. And the Pickleball Hall of Fame is also proud to award this expression of esteem and appreciation to Enrique Ruiz. In recognition of his dominance in the sport of pickleball for over 25 years, in addition to numerous medals won before current majors, he is a 10-time national champion and with 6 wins in open events. He is also a 5-time champion of the International Indoor Championships and 3-time winner of Tournament of Champions. He is an ambassador of the sport, promoting the growth and expansion throughout the Northwest. And now, please give a big round of applause for Enrique Ruiz. Thank you. And last but not least, the Pickleball Hall of Fame is proud to award this expression of esteem and appreciation to Jennifer Liqueur. In recognition of her dominance in the sport of pickleball from 2010 till present, during this time she won gold at 17 USAPA Nationals, 11 Canadian Nationals, 6 Huntsman World Senior Games, 6 International, 4 Tournament of Champions, and 2 US Open titles. So please give a warm round of applause for Jennifer Liqueur. And we present to you the Pickleball Hall of Fame class of 2019.